Okay, club hurling final weekend, Borris-Ileigh against Ballyhale Shamrocks this Sunday at Croke Park. Joined as ever by Michael Verney. Verney, we haven't had a chance to chat about this game in full just yet, but you can't not be excited for it.
You know, it's fierce exciting, yeah. From your own point of view, I'm sure Borris-Ileigh has just been a wave of emotion over the past 2 or 3 months, and it's all building up to this crescendo on Sunday. Be interesting to see, obviously, the change of date. Be interesting to see if that has an effect on attendances and things like that as well, whether it'll be more than 20,000 in Croke Park. It'd be interesting just to see there. I know TJ Reid kind of voiced his concern still again there during the week about the date being changed and said that we were taken away from the grassroots of the GA, we're taken away from Patrick's Day. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Two really intriguing finals, the hurling final in particular. Yeah, it's hard to know what to expect really. I just hope that Borris are able to maintain what they've been doing in recent games. If they do, it should be a really intriguing game.
You'd have to say, like, with Ballyhale having that forward line, TJ Reid, Colin Fennelly, Adrian Mullen, like Owen Reid, and then a couple of talented youngsters, there is always that chance that if Ballyhale could get a glut of goals, that they could do like Kilkenny were doing for 10 years there and polish teams off. Like that has to be a slight concern. As much as I think Borris have an outside chance of winning this, that could also happen, as happened to St. Thomas's last year.
Of course, yeah. I always think it's hilarious. I was just listening to TJ even talking during the week how they didn't play to their potential, and Henry said it as well. They didn't play to their potential against Loughneel, and they definitely didn't. And they still wound up with 224 in a club game over 64, 65 minutes. So if that's a forward line and if that's a team not playing to their potential, that's seriously dangerous. They can clock up huge scores like they did in the club final last year. I think it was it 228 in the wind up, like mad scores, mad scores for a club team to be getting. You'd be thinking a lot of the time if you're playing a club team or playing a club final, 116, 117, you're going to be really, really hard beaten. They put up these ludicrous scores and have the potential to. My first thought after the semi-final was on Adrian Mullen, scoreless, and I was just thinking, is this like could score 1-3 or 1-4 in the final easily, or 5 points easily? That's the potential that they have. There's so many different lads that are able to chip in. You mentioned that great Kilkenny team. They have, if one lad is off, another fella steps up. They just have that array of talent. It's amazing.
Do you know, I was thinking Borris-Ileigh probably started their season November 2018, doing the pre-season for the new year, and we're talking about like 14 months on, here we are in an All-Ireland final. But then I thought Ballyhale, they're actually going since the start of the previous season also, because they'd had a full season last year that went all the way to March 2018 or 2019, and now they're going all the way again. Their inter-county players would have played throughout the summer. It's pretty much no break for those guys whatsoever. I wonder, does it have any impact on either team, or are they in the same boat?
It's mad, isn't it? Dan McCormack said the other day, he always has people asking him, are you tired? Are you tired? And this kind of crack. And he says, I'm getting a chance to win medals that I probably never thought I was going to win, so tiredness doesn't really come into it. But then you basically double that up. The likes of TJ, Colin Fennelly, Joey Holden, these boys who have had absolutely no break. It's mad. And then you add another one on top of that for Cara Finn for the football final, who have basically been going to some lads, Ian Burke and the likes, that have been going 3 years on end, but basically no break. It's mad.
It really is. Like, is there anywhere on this Ballyhale team which looks, like, because how badly they're beating teams, like how heavily they're beating teams, Loughneel aside, is there any weakness in that team that you would see?
Weakness. Well, like their defence, it's a solid defence, but it's not a spectacular defence. It's always the case where they can put up a bigger score that they're conceding. I know that sounds stupid, like, but they can concede 216 or 217 and still win by 6 or 7 points. They're not averse to conceding big scores. I think Borris will be trying to, the likes of JD Devaney will want to face Michael Fennelly. He'll want to have the ball in his hand and be looking at him. And there's several of the Borris players that want to be in that position where they actually have the ball and can put them on the back foot. Like, that's the same with most teams. You want to leave them chasing you rather than the other. But if it's an arm wrestle where JD is trying to pick up a ball and there's 2 or 3 lads around him, and it's an unbelievable struggle to break that first tackle or get that, then they're in trouble. It's that kind of quick. It's having the ball in your hand and actually having a yard to go turn left or right and go at your man. And I think they'll try and create situations like that where possible, but it's easier said than done.
Because I was thinking, like, as with every hurling game, and we've talked ad nauseum about this, you want the space to be in your forward line, and drag the other team, up the field, basically away from their own goals to create that space. You want to choke up your own back line. So for Borris-Ileigh, we'll expect that Dan McCormick is going to kind of sit behind, just in front of the D, we'll say, more or less, to protect the full back line.
There's nothing surer than that.
Yeah,
He definitely will.
And Brendan Maher then will probably take up TJ Reid, and when TJ Reid floats, he'll hope that he can get on the ball himself at times. The other end then, like Michael Fennelly, I'd imagine he's going to be a spare man himself. He's going to try and float around, get on ball and drive it 100 yards the way he's done for God knows how many years. But I wonder, would Borris-Ileigh think, rather than, the way you always want to keep someone close to the square, might they decide, if let's say Niall Kenny or Jerry Kelly is playing full forward, right, you drift out close enough-ish towards Michael Fennelly in the hope of dragging Joey Holden out with him also, and really clog up that area and let Borris-Ileigh drift back down the field. And then, obviously you can't just hit every long ball up to the square, because you won't always have someone up there. That Borris-Ileigh might try and work it out to the wings, to Conor Kenny, to JD Devaney. But do you know what I'm saying there? To try and put the fullback and the centre back, who will be a spare man, also together to sort of negate Fennelly as a sweeper, number one, and also choke a couple of the Ballyhale lads into the same area and leave space out wide.
Yeah, it definitely won't leave Michael Fennelly free anyway. I think they'll want him occupied, whether it's the full forward coming out and occupying it, or whether it's making sure that one of the forwards is on Fennelly and they're leaving somebody else free, somebody that might be a little less comfortable. Now, the likes of Evan Shefflin and Ronan Corkin, a few of these guys are comfortable enough too, but I think they'll want to mark Fennelly and try and take him on. He's he is 34, he has had his injuries, he's an absolute colossus, but I think they'll maybe put a bit of pace on him and try and have a go at him. They'll definitely occupy him. That's 100% anyway, they'll definitely occupy him. And then of course, I think it's hilarious, I'm actually just doing a piece for the paper tomorrow about the Fennelly, Johnny Kelly demographic, and I was in Navan last Sunday for the Offaly game, and Michael Fennelly was basically drove from Ballyhale to Navan about 2 hours after Ballyhale trained that morning, and who was basically covering his back doing the Offaly warm-up, only Johnny Kelly. You know what I mean? So it's mad. And Johnny will obviously be plotting against him now as well, which I think is a brilliant subplot to a game that already has several other subplots.
You can't, there can't but be this weird dynamic in training whereby they obviously have a professional relationship, but they're trying to say as little as possible to each other. And I wonder, in some ways that they'd maybe talk to their team and coach their team and set up the team, or they almost hold it back a little bit for a couple of weeks because they don't want to give tips to the other side.
Yeah, I know, it's an interesting one. Mick Fennelly said the other day that he saw the picture of Borris-Ileigh up in Crow Park last Saturday, and he just texted Johnny and said, "Well, Johnny, what you at today?" or that kind of crack, just kind of messing around or whatever. And Johnny texts back. Well, Mick Fennelly said Johnny texts back, F off, or something like that. Johnny Kelly said he texts back, just that a bit of divilment or whatever. But that's kind of the balance between the two of them. Like Johnny Kelly said, we train Tuesdays and Fridays at Offaly this week, and then I'll see him on Sunday. You know, in a different scenario completely. So it's a bizarre kind of a situation. I don't know, kind of Mick Fennelly says they're too busy to even barely think about, club campaigns when they're in Offaly. The only time they can think about it is when they're eating a bit of food or something after and they hop off each other. He also said as well, any of the Offaly players, I was kind of thinking, if Fennelly had been in the job a couple of years, there'd be lads there, I know it likes Shane Dooley, be absolutely hopping the ball there and they'd be having great crack, but he said they're kind of afraid they're only testing the water still, so nobody's saying too much because they're afraid that the ball will be hopped and it'll be hit back into their face.
So if you're looking the other way, we've talked about maybe Ballyhale having weaknesses. If you're looking at Borris-Ileigh and you're Ballyhale, what areas are you targeting?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. If TJ goes to wing forward, does Brendan Maher pick him up?
I would say so.
So then you're dragging one of their best players, away from. I put it this way. Can Ballyhale win if TJ is not peripheral, but if TJ is, not as big of an influence on the game?
They can,
yes.
Yeah.
Can Borris win if Brendan Maher is peripheral somewhat? No.
That's a very fair point. The one thing I'd say is I don't think it matters whether Brendan is marking TJ Reid at wing back or or centre back, because I think if you're in the half back line, there's a fair chance of getting on the ball either way. So that's not to say that Brendan can out hurl TJ Reid or vice versa. It's just saying that there's probably the same opportunity to get on the ball. Now the flip side then is, what if Colin Fennelly comes out half forward and so is TJ Reid? Then there's a possibility of mismatches, in terms of the physicality of Colin Fennelly. Does that mean Paddy Stapleton has to come out on him and put someone who's not used to fullback in fullback, or does somebody who's maybe not as seasoned a player going to have to mark Colin Fennelly in the half back line? So I think that's where Ballyhale can create these mismatches that might upset Borris a bit.
It's the first time I've ever heard you refer to Paddy as Paddy Stapleton.
Look, for those who don't know, he's my brother. I suppose I kind of have to explain, and I call him Pa anyway. So it's I don't even like saying Paddy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Ballyhale have that great option that Henry said at the last day. The Schlockneil sweeper was basically keeping Colin Fennelly out of the game somewhat, so they were able to pull him out centre forward and add another demographic to their half forward line and a ball winner. Whereas I just think Ballyhale would have identified Brendan and Dan McCormack, and identified so much the fact that Dan is the foil almost for Brendan, to allow Brendan to go forward and that. And I just don't see them allowing that to happen. I just don't see Dan getting on the ball as much as he has been allowed to get on the ball in recent games. It's a different thing as well. Brendan Matter obviously marked TJ Reid in the All-Ireland final earlier on this year. Interestingly, every All-Ireland final Brendan Maher has played has been against Kilkenny opposition. I think I read that somewhere, which is nuts. But Brendan, his sole objective was to keep TJ out of the game that day, whereas he's been marking Pádraig Matheny and different lads, and a lot of it has been keeping them out of the game, but also getting himself into the game, because he knows that Dan McCormack is covering for him. If you risk trying to get forward a bit more, and you leave TJ in behind that like that, the game could be over very, very quickly as well. So it's trying to have balance.
Yeah, because Ballyhale probably have a bit of extra cover at the back and probably feel like they have more quality throughout the field. If Brendan gets on a ball and darts forward, like TJ would obviously work back. He can. We've seen from Kilkenny, he's a great man to get back and work and try and dispossess. But he might almost be like, Joe, what? Instead of trying to follow this out up the field, I'm going to sprint the other side, and then Borris-Ileigh are in trouble whenever the ball breaks down or whenever there's a puck out, because Brendan's probably 70 yards from him. But I suppose that's just one of those things it'll play out in the match, and it might be very different than we're sort of talking about here.
What you don't want happening then as well is like the Ballygunner goal in the Munster final, where TJ could be one wing and he could disappear off over to the other wing if Brendan Matter goes forward, and then there's a ball of space in behind. It's going to be interesting. Just chatting to Dan McCormack during the week, and he was saying, he was talking about Johnny Kelly's greatest strengths. One was that he said he is the master of bilocation almost at this stage, that he can be in two places at once, managing and coaching. Then he also said his organisation, obviously, and then he's talking about his tactics. He said you could see tactics in a game against a team that you might never see again. He will just go specific for this set of opponents, and it'd be interesting to see what he comes up for the most specific set of opponents that you're ever going to face in one of the best club teams of all time.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if you if you were to try and call it, then are you going to do the typical Offaly thing and sort of row in behind Kilkenny teams as always?
I don't know who I said it to the other day. Said it to Pádraig Walsh the other day. I just said keep it in Leinster. For another own game on Saturday.
Is that how you were trying to justify this?
My father would say that, Kerry and Dublin, the All-Ireland final, the football final. He's like, why would you be shouting for Kerry, and Dublin, and Leinster, and this kind of thing? But I think it's hard. It's as much admiration as I have for Borris. I think it is hard to make a case against this team of all teams. I think a lot of things would have to happen. Storm Brendan, which hit earlier on the week, would have to hit in two effects. As Brendan Matter would have to be unbelievable, and I think it would have to be that sort of a day.
Like the Ballygunner game.
Yeah, that sort of a really horrible day. Kind of like the Munster final, to be honest with you, which was low scoring. Was it 112 to 111 that day?
It was, yeah. Actually, do you know the last day Borris-Ileigh put up 121 against St. Thomas's, but for the 5 games before that, Borris averaged, I think it was 115. So they're probably going to have to get closer to 121 to win this game, unless it's a dog of a day.
Definitely, yeah. I actually was looking at a bet as well, which I think is an outstanding bet. It's Ballyhale to get the first goal, just a little under even money. And
Right.
I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. They haven't scored the first goal in some of their recent games, but the fact that you're bringing it into a final, their experience, and I think they will go for the throat straight away.
Yeah.
Just in the fact that Borris are underdogs as well, they won't want to have it nip and tuck. They won't want to be 2 points ahead or 3 points ahead the whole way through. And I think they'll go for the juggernaut straight away. I find it very hard to see past Ballyhale, just with probably just the array of talent up front and the fact that 3 or 4 lads could contribute 2 or 3 scores from play each at least.
Yeah, that is the fear from Borris-Ileigh's point of view, that they probably don't have as many lads that over the years have shown that they can deliver when the need is most. So, Colin Fennelly, TJ Reid, Adrian Mullen, even though he's young, we know that he can deliver on big days. If I'm to look at the few games that Ballyhale have played recently, and I've seen them enough times, the Mullins game in particular stood out. Now, they won it comfortably enough in the end, but I did find that Mullins were getting to the ruck ball quicker than Ballyhale for a lot of the game. But maybe they were probably not getting it up first time, and Ballyhale were able to whip it away from them. And I think those ruck balls are always so crucial in every game, that if Borris-Ileigh can get there as often as Mullins did, but actually take the ball away with them first time, and like if Dan is sitting back, you're obviously going to be outnumbered the other end of the field. Don't hit aimless ball up the field. You're going to be under an awful lot of pressure, so it's going to be hard to not do that. But if everything goes right, if Borris can get out these ruck balls first time, if they can use the ball well, get JD into space, Conor Kenny have lord it and get a rake of points. The moose, as he's called, that runs like a deer. Then there's always the outside chance for Borris. I'm going to let the heart dictate that I'm going to go with Borris, even though the head is saying otherwise. But just as long as you just want it to be a cracker of a game, and I think it can be.
There is always an outside chance. A lot of things are going to happen. I envisage a stage in the first half where Brendan Matter is going to have a couple of really awkward frees.
Yeah.
Awkward frees in Croke Park, and they're going to have to go over. And they've all gone over nearly up until now.
Yeah, and TJ's always go over.
Yeah, so they're going to have to go over. A lot of things like that. They probably won't have a huge amount of chances. They're going to have to go through the game with 5 or 6 wides to win. And they're going to have to get in a few big plays up front, in the sense of a few big blocks and a few big turnovers that they were able to do against Thomason's and that they were able to punish. But I can't see it, and I'd say Ballyhale by 5 to 6, 5 more, maybe 5 or 6, and just a bit more. Anything between 5 and 8.
You're trying to upset me now. Job done. Anyway,
doesn't matter. It's like all that matters is whoever's smiling at 3 on Sunday.
Well, we'll see anyway. Fingers crossed for Borris-Ileigh, and look, thanks for joining me. Delighted to do the preview as ever, and I'm sure I'll see you at Croke Park on Sunday.
Hey, one Shane, take Randy.